Tell us a little bit about your journey from being a journalist in South Africa to becoming an independent social media manager in West London.
Yes. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Yolanda Sissing. I am a West Londoner now. I was living in South Africa, born and bred in Cape Town. I don't know if any of you know that part of the world. And I worked as a journalist in print media at 2 national newspapers for just over 5 years. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then decided I wanted to travel the world. So booked a ticket and came over to London. The plan was to stay for 2 years. So I did some freelance writing for some magazines and online publications while I was here. And then found a job in a housing charity, delivering volunteering programs in some impoverished areas in London. And I absolutely fell in love with the city. And so as much as my plan was to leave after 2 years, I decided to stay. And so I worked in the charity sector for just over 15 years. And then became a parent to 2 beautiful children and realized that city living is just not practical when you have to juggle school life and meetings and late night working. And so I decided to change course. I missed writing, I missed journalism, I missed marketing. And I had also fallen in love with, Instagram and the platforms that had developed. And I thought there must be something in this. And so I requalified as a social media marketing consultant. And so that's what I've done. And now I've pivoted and I've started my own business. It's called PinkLeaf Social. My plan and my intention with this business is that I want to work with purpose-driven business owners. So all of my clients are people who've got some sort of ethical attachment and passions linked to their brand. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been doing it quietly in the background for a year and a bit. And I officially launched my own business at the end of August, beginning of September. So yeah, I'm officially a solopreneur, which is great. I'm really enjoying it. It's a fantastic line of work to be in.
Would you say Instagram is your favorite platform? Because I see.
Yeah, it is. It is. I love Instagram and I absolutely love LinkedIn. I know not everybody's as passionate about LinkedIn, but I find them both very, very entertaining platforms to be on and just good for sort of industry news and linking with people in a different way. Yeah.
So that means I have to leapfrog to question number 4. Tell me what you think about LinkedIn. Is it social enough to be social media?
I think LinkedIn has evolved. I think they've tried to adapt to the online mediums. I think things have changed. So I remember when LinkedIn first started, it was like having an online CV and people just kind of checked in and networked with each other on a very professional basis. But I think now as things has rolled out, they've got LinkedIn stories now, they've started introducing hashtags. There are online networking groups and conferences and things that people run. I think it feels more like a networking environment. And my definition of social media is that it's an opportunity for people to be able to connect and share with people, sometimes in a social capacity, but LinkedIn, obviously it's in a professional capacity. So yeah, I feel like it is a, a social media platform for a different audience, just like Facebook is, just like Instagram is, TikTok, all of them are catering to different audiences. So I feel like LinkedIn is for professionals to be able to network and socialize in a different capacity.
But can we use it for social media marketing?
I think you can. I think, again, the brands that operate on LinkedIn are different to the brands that operate on Facebook and on Instagram and some of the other platforms. Certainly what I found is during lockdown, especially, there are a lot of companies that have reworked the way that they market themselves on channels like LinkedIn because they can't do events or face-to-face spaces. And there was a life coach that I was working with, and she has been able to market and pivot her brand online because she was able to host more networking events online. She was able to connect more globally with industries and professionals that she wouldn't have had the opportunity to do otherwise. And so for you to be able to market your business, again, as a professional capacity, not necessarily getting customers through B2C, but B2B customers, I think LinkedIn is perfect. I think, yes, it is. I did actually run a poll about this last week because I thought of following your question, and I thought, and just in case I am going crazy, and 63% of the respondents said, yes, it is a social networking platform. So it's not just me saying this, the data supports it.
All right. Okay, fine. What do we think? Do we agree? So LinkedIn, social media? All right. The data supports it. Fine. Speaking of data, do you ever look at your insights? Because this week we're talking about insights in class, and we're going to talk some more after we talk to you. Do you ever look at insights to measure how well your strategy is working, or are there better ways of gauging impact?
Yes, I do. And I think it's an absolute must, especially as a social media marketer, for you to be able to evidence and prove that what you're doing is working. And for you to be able to strategize properly so that your clients or your boss or the company that you end up working for shows and sees value in what you're doing. I do it for all the clients that I'm working with, firstly, to be able to establish sort of baseline KPIs or key performance indicators. And then we can measure different aspects of what their social goals might be. So I have been able to use it successfully. Most of the clients that I have had, I don't know, did you guys cover things like social media goals? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, bits of it, yeah.
Yeah. So social media goals for each of the clients we need to establish first. So what is the thing that you want to achieve? Why are you going onto social media? And whether that's things like building brand awareness, boosting engagement, trying to generate leads for your clients or your company that you work for, and then ultimately sales, converting those people into sales figures brings in money to the business. So you want to be able to show that you can strategize around those goals. And in order to do that, you have to set up metrics that make sense. So if you're thinking about things like brand awareness, I've been doing work on things like follower numbers or just growth with follower numbers, not numbers per se, because I think that's quite a tricky thing to concentrate on exclusively. Things around engagement. So how do you show that the content that you are posting has value? And the way that you can do that is because there's engagement on your posts that you've been posting. So things like likes, shares, comments, and it also saves, which means that people value what you want that you've posted, and so they save it because they want to use it later. So it's benefiting them somehow. Looking at things like sort of reach and impressions. So how much exposure are your posts getting, not only for your followers, but in terms of the wider user audiences on different social networks. You can also drill down to things like finding out which hashtags are more successful, which format of your content is more successful. So is it video? Is it photographs? Which keywords in your captions that you're using is getting more attention? And ultimately, if you're thinking about sort of businesses and generating leads and sales, sorry, my phone's just going. Things like using features like Google Analytics, for example, if you've got a website that's established, helps your business to be able to track where your audiences and their customers are coming from. So if you can show value to say, look, 50% of the people that have bought your products have come from Facebook or from Instagram. And it also helps you to draw a specific image or picture of who your audience might be. Demographics are very important because that also helps you to plan as a social media consultant or marketer who you're pitching your content for. So you can drill down to gender, lifestyle, location, you know, down to things like people's shopping habits. You know, it feels very like creepy, but it's important, especially if you're thinking about things like your tone of voice. So you don't want to come across too professional if you know a lot of your target audience are younger people who might be passionate about something that's not corporate, for example. So yeah, it's very critical. And so once you're able to establish a baseline, you can then work around what do you want to achieve and what success would look like. So if you know through a series of testing, you have been able to improve your engagement levels, you've been able to grow your online community. That's also something that's massive these days as well, that you've got a membership group or, you know, an online community that you can speak to directly. You can show value in the work that you're doing, and you can only do that through analytics. So I take time out at least once a week to just document, you know, how things have been going across the board. And again, related back to brand awareness. When I'm working with my clients, I would send them something on a monthly basis just to say, look, this is what is working, this is not what's working. It's also important to kind of pay attention to what's topical in the world, you know, so what sits and fits well with the people that you're pitching to. So yeah.
But how do you manage managing multiple clients? Because that's the tricky bit. So you work out the insights for one company and you're concentrating on that company, and then an hour later you're working on a different company, a different strategy, and then the next day you're working on another strategy. How do you manage switching your brain from one thing to the next like that?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of coffee. No, so well, I've got clients who are at different stages in their business, and what I do in the beginning is work out a campaign strategy, and so I will draw up things like content pillars. I don't know if you guys have spoken about that. So, you know, key things that would be important for that business and that would be important for those audiences. And then I will plan probably about 8 weeks worth of content for each of those clients. And so the key thing for me to do in between those is to pay attention to what else is happening. So if, for example, one of my clients is a sort of like a interior design type company. And so it's easy for me to think about content because I can visualize who might be most attracted to that sort of content. And then I can plan what sort of issues or topics might be covered. So I think about a range of different ways that we could engage audiences. So if it's video, if it's reels, if it's polls, if it's stories, you know, all of those different things. And we'll bank lots of fun photographs or really high quality photographs. We'll do a different mix of sort of content to think about. And then in between that, you know, we've had lockdown. And so now I go, oh, okay, that's where the stress comes in, because now you're like, I need to make sure that what I'm providing people is still informative and of value. So you'd have to just think, what else would I need to consider for the audience that I'm catering for? I can't have an interior designer coming in to look at my place now because you're not allowed to have anybody in your home. And so I would probably do things like provide content that's helpful. So these are things that you can do on your own in the meantime, if you can't leave your house during lockdown, to make your house look more beautiful. Or, you know, is this particular room bugging you? Here are 5 things that you could potentially do to just spruce up your house or whatever. So that takes a bit more of my attention, but I tend to sort of plan my content 2 weeks in advance, so I'm not constantly having to think of different things all the time, because as you say, that's quite a struggle. And then I block out time at least once a week. It's the same Monday of every week, to just look at the performance of each client. And then I can sort of regurgitate what I think is working and what isn't working. So if, for example, I'll see, I'll stick to the interior designer. So the design client, I've noticed that the question feature on Instagram, for instance, seems to get a lot of traction. So I'll start to think about my content using more interactive tools or features on Instagram to get to continue. You know, if I see, for instance, posting on a Sunday evening doesn't get as much appeal, I can then say, look, let's not do Sundays anymore. We can post on different days. So it's a constant testing. But again, you can only do that if your analytics are up to date and they make sense.
Yeah, when you're talking about posting on Sundays, you're talking about being self-employed and working from home. This is a similar but different question. How do you balance your home social media? How do you balance your personal social media with your work social media?
Yeah, I'm terrible. I'm not the right person to ask. No, in all honesty, I've had to be very strict with myself, because social media it's a really, really addictive line of work, because there's so much that you can find and that you come across that's fascinating and interesting. And if you're anything like me, you want to try absolutely everything. And so I've had to be really strict with myself. So I do all my clients' work while the children are at school. And then in the evenings, I'll bank about an hour or two for myself to plan my own personal social media things. I'm not as strict with my own personal content, because on my other Instagram profile, I tend to just post what I feel and things that I want to share, because it's a different community. But on my professional page for Facebook and Instagram, I tend to think about sort of issues. So with my own content, I always think about what are the things that might have come up that I've worked with clients that might be of use or of interest to people. And so that comes just from like what I'm doing. And I think it's probably from the things that I was doing as a journalist. You know, you kind of go, oh, this could be an interesting story, or this sounds like a good topic to talk about. But what I don't tend to do is make it difficult for myself, because otherwise it does become a 24-hour job, and that's not sustainable. And I've also tried to make sure that I get out the house. It's different when you're working for a company, so you have to physically leave your home, get on a train or whatever it is to go into the office. When you're working for yourself, it's easy to just sit in front of the computer and never leave. So I make sure that at least I go out in the mornings after I drop the kids off. I'll go for a walk or a run or something, come back, give myself sort of block periods where I'm working, and then, you know, cut off when I can. So yeah, it's an ongoing struggle, but I think if you're firm and strict with yourself, just as you would do if you had a normal 9-to-5 job that didn't mean that you have to be online all the time, it's easier to manage.
All right, thank you very much for that. Well, I mean, in the next, I'm going to give the class a chance to type in any questions that they might have at the moment. But what I'm thinking is, how do you see social media changing over the next year or so? I mean, when this group is graduated from university, how do you think there's a greater trend towards being self-employed? Do you think that people would go back into paid employment? Or do you think people are going to give up on social media because they had enough of it during lockdown? What trends do you see happening in social media?
Well, you know, I think that it's a really, really good question. And I'm going to go back to something that I was actually speaking to my 9-year-old daughter about. And I said to her, how exciting that you are living in a world where the jobs that will be coming up have not even been thought about for you and your lifetime. And probably for you as well, Carlene, when I was growing up, the internet didn't exist. It wasn't even a career path as part of what you were doing. And now I'm able to actually earn a living from it. I think if 2020 has taught us anything, it is that social media is the future. I think what I've seen is that there are more companies investing in social media as an opportunity to market their business. I think they've recognized that people don't have to go into a shop to buy things that they want to buy. I think people have recognized that a lot of people are capable of launching personal brands. So you are your brand versus you having to go and attach yourself to a big brand in order to become a business. And I think when it comes to social media, what I'm seeing is that there is a lot of crossover now. You know, there's a lot of innovation and social media platforms are learning from each other. You know, the fact that we've got reels on Instagram, which I never thought would happen, is because TikTok was so enormously successful. And I know when TikTok first came out, everybody's like, oh, what is this? It's for kids. And now there are big brands using TikTok in order to market and sell their products. So I think that social media is definitely the way forward. I don't think it's going to go away for a very long time. I think the way that it will evolve probably will change. And I think that will be led by people's shopping habits and their lifestyles. And that people will, you know, those platforms will adapt to meet the needs of customers. So it's exciting. I think I won't say that you have to go and work for a company. I think if you're somebody who benefits from being surrounded by other people and you get your strength from sort of team meetings and bouncing off people, and that's where your energy lies. I think working for a company is a great space to be able to do that, to just learn your skills and get what you need and get into a good routine and understand what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And it's a great place to also gain, you know, extra training and learning, because those are something that companies have to be able to provide to you as part of your employment. But there's also something really special about starting on your own. I would say that social media is a very competitive industry. And so you have to really think about, you know, what it is that you want to do, what it is you want to be known for, who are the clients that you want to be working with, how you might reach out to those people, and think about the things that influence you to be able to make the right choices for yourself, you know, your business and your future. I think for me, the non-negotiables now are, I just don't want to be able to make choices between spending time with my children and earning money. And so that's one of the key things that influence me going forward as part of my decisions. And also constantly trying to think about, you know, where I want to be in the next 12 months. And if the company is aligned with where you want to go and your direction for your career path, then absolutely. But if it isn't, then just, you know, do your own thing. You can do it. It's scary. It's difficult, but it's possible.
Well, thank you very much. Would anybody like, I don't know if you can unmute yourself if you want to ask anything. Anybody wants to say, ask Yolanda anything about working in the world of social media marketing? You put something in the chat. Ooh, Najma's put something in the chat. Let's have a look. Can you see what's in the chat, Yolanda?
Let me have a look. Right. How does the societal, cultural, and political environment change the marketing strategy within social media? Movements such as LGBTQ, Me Too, and BLM are considered when marketing towards the current social media trends in marketing. How do you create marketing strategies within that environment? Great question. And a lot to unpack. Okay, I am an absolute advocate for social awareness and branding for around social causes. I think it's critical. I think, again, if 2020 has shown us anything as a brand, if you are quiet on these issues, especially if your target market are people who are socially conscious, it does force you to make some decisions and to take a sort of stand. I think as a social media marketer, and this is something that I spoke to one of my clients about, who was reluctant to say anything. They are a Black-owned business in the light of all the stuff that was happening around BLM. And I said, look, social media is not the news. It's not a TV channel. Social media is about connecting with your audience. And if you know that your audience is struggling with a particular issue, or there's a challenge or a pain point happening in their lives, and you don't speak about it, the silence probably speaks volumes. So it's more about thinking about how you deliver that message to let people know that you are aligned or in tune with their emotional state at the moment, and less about making a political statement. So if you aren't a brand like Nike, for instance, or Innocent Smoothies, or even Nando's for that fact, if your brand or the company that you work for just wants to say, look, we hear you, we understand, and this is what we're going to be doing to kind of show our support, that's just as important as saying, doing a bend the knee campaign, for instance. I think it's important to use those spaces. And I think I mentioned about online communities. There was a lot of work around focus groups and getting sort of responses or feedback from those communities to help brands to figure out what they want to do next to align with different movements. And so I think our jobs as a social media marketer is, we need to be able to help our clients or our customers or our companies get the assurance that they can come across as being authentic. Again, that's the power of social media. People can see through you being fake, straight away, and it's not going to get you any kudos. So it's important that you are able to build campaigns that support the work of the companies that you work for, but also align very closely with the customers that you want to attract and to have on board as being loyal. I don't know if that answers your question. Or do you have another question to add to that?
Wait, just a minute, Najma. Can you hear Yolanda?
No, I can't.
Najma, let me see if I can, if she can go ahead. You want to try it?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi. Okay, so I was wondering, how does like some companies capitalize through like social media using these specific like movements? For example, the Me Too movement, how Starbucks used it to sell more products. Do you think that like with the strategies of social media that some companies should do something like that, like capitalize with it, or is it not? Okay, sorry. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah.
Okay, I think maybe tell me if okay, all right, sorry, let me mute you back. Sorry, Najma. I think what you mean is it this is what we're going to discuss next week, ethics. If there's a current topic, is it right to capitalize on it? For example, the example you were giving just now, Yolanda, about the Black-owned business. Is it right, Black Pound Saturday, is it really right for Black businesses to have this advantage and to promote themselves on Black Pounds? What is Black Pound Day on Saturday, on the first Saturday of the month, or if there's something more of an emotional campaign, if it's right for business to capitalize, if they're selling Black Lives Matters masks, is that right? How do you feel when there's a emotional topic and a business wants to make money off of it?
Yeah, I just feel like the world of marketing has changed so significantly. I think, my generation and the ones who have come after, we don't buy things just because we're being told to buy it. Like we're very critical about the brands and selective about the brands that we buy from. And I've certainly seen that there's more of a trend around ethical marketing strategies versus, old school, oh yes, 25% off, come and buy what we're doing. People want to understand your brand values and your mission and your purpose. I think where it becomes questionable is if, for example, the first time that you're talking about race issues or LGBTQ issues is when Black Lives Matter happens. And then the following week, you've got masks with all these funky artworks on there, and there's no substance in it. So it's not supported in your website content, or it's not supported in, as I said, like your values or your mission. It's not supported by the employees that you've got that are working for you, or your leadership teams who are making all the decisions. I think what is ethical is if there is genuine investment in the causes that you're looking to support. So it's not something that you're capitalizing on just for monetary purposes. And I can certainly say there've been a lot of brands who have failed in the wake of Me Too and Black Lives Matter, because like I said, people can see through what you're doing. And it's just as easy as it is for you to produce something to make money. It's as easy for somebody who is a campaigner or an advocate to go onto platforms like Twitter or Facebook and completely destroy your brand. So I think my advice certainly has been to my clients, and again through the research that I've done, is that it needs to be something that speaks through every part of your business before you're looking to even step into the ring to say what it is that you want to say. So I don't think people should shy away from it, because I think we're living in a political environment and a cultural environment. And I think people, as I said, are attuned to these things. But I don't, if you start doing it in a way that's very superficial, I think it's probably going to backfire. There was a brand that I really admired. I won't mention who they were. And they had a question. They do clothing, and it's a clothing label. They had a question about why they don't cater for plus size people. And they kind of just laughed it off. And it got traction. And so you had all these people bombarding them saying, why don't you cater for plus size? Why don't you cater for plus size? And they went on and did what they thought was a really good, again, this is why I'm saying research is so important, and just understanding who your audience is, and did a live where they were trying to explain away why they don't cater for plus size individuals. And it got picked up by an influencer who mentioned it on one of their YouTube channels. And they had to stop completely, because they realized that they are completely out of tune on what people are talking about, and have now sort of taken stock of what the messaging has been, and have subsequently launched a range for all sizes. So it's important to not just capitalize, but to just think very carefully, because as I said, as quickly as you can respond to these things, there are as many people who can take down what you're doing. So as a social media marketer, you know, it's a nightmare when that happens. And trying to fight fires is probably the hardest part of social media marketers' job. So just be careful and be wise and be sensitive when you're thinking about content and campaigns.
Wow, I mean, as you're giving that example, I'm thinking of quite a few myself. Thank you. We've got a couple more minutes. We are over time by 5 minutes. Can you hold on for one more question, Yolanda?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Any more questions from anybody? Well, my last question was, well, if anybody wants to type in while I'm talking, so any last bits of advice you can give to, you know, the next graduates from UWL social media marketing course? What can they look forward to in the world of work, in their lives? And you know, any good advice as a woman who's been there and working?
I would say that your starting point is fantastic, because there are lots of tools that can help you to do your job better. There's lots of scheduling tools, there's lots of analytical tools, there's lots of graphic design tools, photography tools, video making tools that can help you to excel in your role. So you don't have to do everything from scratch. There's ways that can make you be more effective, and, you know, like just spend time understanding your craft, and spend time thinking about what it is that makes you unique within that space. Don't try to be like everybody else. I know it sounds really cliche, but I know, for example, I'm South African and I can't shy away from that. I'm a Black woman, I can't shy away from that. I'm not going to know absolutely everything about London, but there are things that I know and understand about the world that I think would be my key value piece that I can add to any client that I'm working with. And I think it's important to be confident and to be able to stick to your own values and write them down. You know, every start of the year, I spend time thinking about things that I want to achieve over the course of the year. In my personal life, you know, physically, emotionally, within my business, and work towards those things. It's not always about the money. I think money happens because you're in the right space. And if you're in the right space, things start to open doors for you. So I think, yeah, just own it, be proud of what you're doing, and find networks that can help you to grow and be more successful. I did some work with an organization called Like-Minded Females, and started by a woman called Sonia Barlow, who's much, much younger than me, but far more fierce than I am. And she's been able to turn the network into just a diamond of and a hub of information for entrepreneurs and people who are looking to develop themselves in terms of their careers. And they touch on really interesting points like money, which is always a very sensitive thing, I think, for anybody starting out or even trying to look or develop themselves in their careers, like not being afraid to talk about money and being able to identify what it is that you need to earn and how you go about getting that. And yeah, I think just being involved in social media means that you can find this information more readily available than you would have done before. So don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just have fun and just enjoy it.
Right. Thank you very much. So it's okay if we all connect up with you on LinkedIn?
Yes. So on LinkedIn, I am Yolanda Sissing. I think I'm the only one as far as I know. On Facebook, I am PinkLeaf Social. I think it's PinkLeaf_social. No, it's pink_leaf_social. On Instagram, I'm PinkLeaf_social. So yeah, feel free to connect and get in touch. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to help.
We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about being a social media marketer in 2020. And I will follow up with you a bit later on when we get back by email. I should have said you don't mind if I record this, do you?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But I will send you the recording and let me know if you don't mind if I share bits of it on social media, because that's what it's all about. You know?
That's what it's all about. Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Carlene, and all the best to all of you as well for the rest of your studies.
Thank you. All right. Take care, Yolanda. We'll talk a bit later.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.